I'm going to talk now about the children on the planet, and their connection to the war zones, whether they're in the war zone or not, and their energetic selves around addictions, like hard out addictions like pee and alcohol. And so that's what I'm going to move into right now. And I'd love you to listen to this because it's a very interesting thing, and it's something that I have been witness to and working with for quite a long time with these children, because I quite often get contacted from parents to go into homes to clear the energy in the rooms or in the house when these children aren't sleeping well and there's upheaval. There might not be upheaval in the family itself, but the children are very onto it, and a lot of these young children do not sleep well. They have very nightmarish nights. They wake up in absolute terror and screaming, and parents cannot console them. And so for many years I've been working with children, with families, going into their homes and helping them through these situations. And then, so what else is happening? And quite a lot of these children now are coming in from very high realms and off other very interesting planets. And what they are doing is they are sitting very much in that state within their family existence here on this planet with their family, but they're standing out as being very different. And I mean in respect to bringing through some very enlightened wisdoms, and also just being quite sort of withdrawn, but not so much as in depressed or, you know, shutting themselves off. They're very much a part of what's going on, but they're just not involved. They're more observing, and they come in more as an observing role than an interactive role, but they are here learning through their observation. But they're very so I had a client the other week, and her daughter was very doing all of that I've just described, and she was definitely from a different planet, very much in an observation space, and bringing in and observing what might, it was sort of like what might be required here, and how they may be able to assist her people with her being the observer here on the ground, actually ground, you know, working on the ground, right? So there's that there. And I find this also with a lot of the, and not a lot of, I've not had a lot to do with special needs, but definitely have felt that. And what I do is I might sit with them and I get information, right? But what I do is I track their essence. I track their essence and I go back to wherever it is they connect to. So what I'm doing is I'm tracking them through, particularly at night time, and it doesn't have to be, but that's when I tend to do it, to find out what's going on. If they're having a lot of nightmare-y, terror-type dreams, I'll connect in knowing they're asleep, and I'll go in and I'll just track them and see where they're actually going, what's going on for them while they're out of their body state, right? So that's what I do. So with this, I have a deep understanding and knowing of what they're up to. So it's not just coming through clairvoyantly or through mediumship in any way, in that type of way. I'm actually in my own energy self, energetically tracking them and finding them and going with them wherever it is they go. So that's how I get this information. So with this young girl, also special needs, she was also from another planet, and she was also coming in as into a body here that was observing what was happening. And because she was in very much special needs and didn't speak, she could be really in that observation space, right? So that's them. And there's, you know, there's a lot of that, but I haven't had a lot of that connection. I can say I've had a lot, but I haven't had hundreds, right? Whereas with the other children that I'm going to speak about now, I've had hundreds. What happens with these children waking in these nightmares, parents are often not able to really console them in any way. They're just in this terror state and they cannot settle them. In fact, many parents have said to me they just don't sleep, and they won't sleep. They do, obviously, through exhaustion, absolutely collapse at some point, but it's as if, and I hear this parents saying this to me a lot, it's as if they're afraid to go to sleep. And so in that space, I go in and I check where they're up to in their room. I might check their home and make sure that there's no energy in there. A lot of the time these young children are also opening portals, and new things, beings are coming through, creatures a lot of the time. So there's a draw to these children because they're such bright lights, as we know. And so oftentimes there are energies in the house that need to be sorted out, right? And that is also a big part of them in, not having enough sleep through the night. Not so much the terror space, but actually just wanting to jump in bed with mum and dad because they're afraid, right? And they might be talking about seeing people, or there's a man in my room, or there's a man over there, mum, or whatever it is, if they're able to speak. And quite often they might be just sitting in their high chair following something like this, not actually saying anything, but actually following an energy. And parents have said, oh, there's something going on, we'll get, somebody in. So they call me. So that there is something that has been constant and is always with me, constant. And one of the things that I know we as grandparents in this lifetime is spiritually guardian protectors for these children, for our grandchildren. Whether you have contact with them or not, whether they live in a different country or not, you are that. So learning how to work energetically and move in with these children on an energetic level to see how they are, to keep an eye on them, as a protective guardian force. And it's really important. And if you look at the world and the way that the world has treated these children and have done for eons, we all know this, but if you look at this lifetime, how many of the children have been targeted? Hundreds and thousands of them. Through all sorts of horrid ways, these children are targeted. And if we look at Palestine right now, it's the highest percentage of injuries and deaths is children. So there's this really, because for whatever reason, I feel that they get it. These ones in control, the darker forces, whatever we might want to talk about in that respect, is that these children are from a very high frequency, the same as us. I mean, that's happening with us as well. But these children have come in. They are the light that's now going to anchor more of this earth energy and this new higher frequency onto the planet, right? We get that. So why are they being targeted? Probably because of that. Who knows? But also, we don't forget that there's soul evolution, there's soul patterns, there's all sorts of traumas that these bodies might have carried before, in their journey and their evolutionary track. So there's always that stuff to put into play or to consider as well. It's not all about everyone doing it to us, because it isn't. And we created all this into being. So these souls have come through, a lot of them, to show us where we need to tweak something or majorly shift something. Okay, so the other part to this is what I've been seeing, and again, I'll just put my glasses on to read these comments because I can't without them on, but I don't want to just leave them on me. I'm over it. One of those children have seen my autistic nephew talking and singing with light beings. Yes, me too, says Heidi. Right. So where I'm heading is that there's these children that are going into these and having these nightmarish cannot sleep type of realms, right? And parents are sleep deprived because they're not getting the sleep either. They're getting woken up every night, or the child's always in their bed and their room, and because it's in that terror state whenever it goes to sleep and waking up in that state, they themselves are very stressed and can't, and really are finding it difficult to console them, but also not being able to leave that out of their thinking and their worry state, you know, because, oh my God, I don't know what to do about my child. They've been taking them to, and I had one lady or a couple in Auckland, who I went down to Auckland to check out the property and make sure everything was okay. But again, what I came across was that they had changed formulas. They'd taken him to, and this child was only about 18 months old, if that. Oh, younger actually. But anyway, cranial work getting done. They do all this sort of thing to try and shift it and change it, getting crystals, yes, to help sleep, all of these things, but nothing actually is working, because the reason behind this, and this is what I've found with many of these children, and like I say, we could say hundreds, but I'm not going to, I don't know, because I don't know exact numbers, but all of these children recently, over the last, oh gosh, time goes so quickly, I don't know, I want to say maybe 6 years or more, 6 years, maybe, around, can't say properly, have been, when I track them, right, because the rooms energetically are not bad, they're all okay. So what else is it? What else is happening with these children? So quite often what I say to the parent is, I'm going to go away now, you know, we've had a look, we've done some energy work, but it's never really been the core thing that creates these dreams, these terror states of nightmare. And what I do is I say to them, well, I'm going to connect back in with the child. And that's what I mean about the tracking them, right? So I come home, when I get a feeling, I'll tune in, I get a feeling that the kid has gone to bed at least and maybe asleep. I then go in and I track the child. And what I found every single friggin' time is that they are in two or more bodies. So they have this body here that is absolutely in this world with their beautiful parents, this calm environment that we're in, because we do not have war zone here, and their other body with a loving, understanding, compassionate mums and dads and love. Then we've got the other body that is sitting in a war zone. And it was in Afghanistan, a lot of bodies were coming in around the Afghani-Suri state. And then recently I had a mum just last week, and she is in absolute, like, I don't know what to do. She's in this absolute panic around her child. And this child is around 18 months old, and she is inconsolable. Can't console her. She's afraid to go to sleep, to the point that this little girl had to go on anaesthetic and have an operation. And the doctors gave her anaesthetic, was given to her, which was the right amount for that child, and she would not sleep. She wouldn't go out. And a mother kept saying to them, I told you she doesn't sleep. Like, she actually doesn't sleep. And they all kept saying, but it's a baby, you cannot tell me this child doesn't sleep. Well, she doesn't. Then they had to give her extra anaesthetic to get her to actually go out enough to do the operation. They then said to mum, you'll need to wait, and you know, she's going to take hours before she comes out of this because of the amount of anaesthetic we've had to give her. That kid hadn't even come out of theatre, she was awake. So this is the state, and her mum said she's too afraid to go to sleep, I just know it. So tracking her, she's connected with and in another body, so it's not just a connection, they're actually living two experiences at one time. And she's actually connected into another body of a 10-year-old boy in Palestine. And what I came across was another kid who was also he was a little older though, and he could speak. So it's interesting, was interesting for me that he was old enough to be able to explain his nightmares and what they were really about. And they were continuous. Every night he would have more and more of these, and mum and dad talked to a friend. Friend said, oh, you need to talk to Mandy, so that's what happened. And this boy had obsession around war. He was really obsessed. He loved it. He just was like so obsessed with it, being, watching more war, everything. And they were in a second-hand shop somewhere, and there was a war helmet there, and he begged his dad to buy it for him, which he had done so, and that was in his bedroom. So this boy actually stopped. They stopped for him, his nightmares and his war dreams and being so involved in it all stopped for him when the last dream he remembers he had when they stopped was that the body he was in this war zone, which when I tracked was an Afghanistan man, and he was in an American military uniform. It was in the Afghanistan war, sorry, and he was a American military uniform, and he had been beheaded by the Taliban, or I presume, I don't know, but he'd been beheaded, and that was when this kid's dreams of all of that stopped, all the terrors, all the nightmares, and he didn't have any more of these war dreams. So that sort of also confirmed for me, you see, this confirmation stuff always comes in, that what I had been picking up with many, many, many children was this, and that was something that I felt he was confirming for me. Well, yes, actually, that's what it is, and it won't stop until either the war stops or their body's gone. And maybe not in such a drastic way, like maybe it's not that they all have to actually die in those war zones for them to actually have peace here. Maybe there's a way, like if the body over in that war zone doesn't actually pass over, then there may be peace somewhere. There may be some sort of way that body also embodies peace and comes to that space that then also helps this body here. But in questioning why is that? Why do they have to be in such a zone? And why is there that they've got these two bodies, And I just kept getting it was a fast track, that they're new bodies or young souls that are experiencing fast tracking these two horrendous, because they're very much the opposite end of the scale. And for me it's a little sad, it was like, oh my God, what can we do to help these kids? But there actually isn't anything we can do. They've contracted in that they've agreed to be in these two bodies. We can't do anything about that. So as parents, I know it was hard to be able, because particularly this little boy down in Auckland, he was, this mother was stressed, like she was, she was such a health freak and did everything in every way the healthiest she could for this child, or they did as parents. And so she was just beside herself, and as we all do when our kids are in that sort of state. I mean, it's horrible. So not being able to actually do anything about it was not a fun thing to have to tell her, that we couldn't do anything. It's really up to the soul. And all you can do is love them as much as you possibly can, comfort them as much as you possibly can. And if you know anyone who's in this sort of state, because I know there's a lot of parents going through a lot of this type of stuff with their children, and I don't know, I know for the parents that I have talked with about this, gone into their homes and all that, I know that they've had comfort just knowing that, even though we can't do anything about it, just the understanding of it, it's helped them because they're not going into the doctor all the time, what's wrong with my child, or going into, you know, have all this other work done. Or like this woman changed formulas. She said, I've gone through I don't know how many formulas, thinking it was something like that, you know. And you know, she was quoting the money that they would have spent in doing that and those sorts of things. So it actually brought comfort, even though it's not. But it is. You get what I'm saying. So that would make sense. As my boy's past lives, he was reliving heroes as soldiers and warriors. Yes. Teens that go on shooting rampages. Exactly. And this is the other thing too, is I see, Pauline, you're talking about the autistic, and that is something else that I was talking with a woman who is going to come in and have a talk. I'm going to start a new chat show called Shoot the Breeze. And I'm going to get some guests in to just have a chat with me around different topics. And one of the ones is the autistic realm, where these children aren't getting the support they need as well, because there's so many more of them. And we were sort of asking around why that was. And I said, do you believe it to be the vaccines? And she, because she works with a lot of them, this lady, and she said, well, I don't believe that's the answer to it, actually, she said, or the cause. She said it's just that ones that were very much like that in earlier years, you know, years back, they were put into asylums and they never bred. They never had children, so they weren't, you know, there weren't a lot of them and they weren't breeding. Now they're not put into asylums, which is a great thing. We don't want them there. But now they are breeding, and more of those autistic types are having children. So I sort of thought, yeah, actually that makes sense, whether that's the you know, and we know they're not, you know, it's a label, and I think we all have to have some sort of label, you know. Eventually we won't, but in this place we do at this time. And we see them as different, but they, and which they are in a sense, of course, but there's great beauty in what they are too, and who they are here. So it's all part of the melting pot that we are. The other thing around these children too, and this is something that is, you know, huge out there in all lands, whether it's New Zealand or America, England, wherever, there's a lot of methamphetamine, and, you know, there's still a lot of alcohol around and people drinking a lot of that. And the transfer of entities that get transferred through from those types of people to the children in their realms, in their houses, in their families, whatever, however it rolls. But one of the things I do also know, and this is another thing that these children have come in to help and assist with, is that they are here also because they are high energy, high vibrational beings, just like we are. They also shift energy and move and transmute dense energy and dark energy, right? So if they're in a home that is with their parents that are on methamphetamine or are heavy drinkers, there's a lot of entity that comes in around those. So for me, and again, I know these things because I work in the energetics of these. I don't just get the information and say, oh, you're coming through mediumship. I go out and I look at them, I track them, I go into the energetic. I'm an energy intuitive. I know what it is, and I know a lot of these beastly things that have been around us for centuries, eons, whatever we might want to call it, and new ones that are being created through people's addictions, through their moods. You know, if you see somebody or know somebody who's very angry, and that anger gets expressed and it's like rage, that also can create entity. And those entities lock into others, they create more of the same, and twist and interfere with the emotion and the minds, right? And they'll put in tendrils connect into the back. So when we leave, our bodies, it's often thought that we leave through the crown of the head. We often leave, it's at the nape of the neck here, at the base of the neck. And so there is where they attach in. If there's an entity that's going to attach to you or anyone else that's going to come in at the back there, attach, and tendrils will go up into the mind, into the brain, and the other tendrils will go down into the heart area and affect the emotion and affect the thoughts and the feeling states, right? So with that, these children are trying to shift these entities out of their homes. They're trying to clear the parents and the people that are coming into the home that's playing the game with the parents, say, with these types of entities or energies. They're trying to also clear those. They're trying to keep the house and all the energy clear for their littler brothers and sisters, maybe. But remembering, even though these may be babies in cribs or cots, these babies are also high energetic beings, and they have a big body on the outskirts, if you get me, within them. It may not be just that they haven't brought as much of that presence here on the planet yet, but they still have that ability to be able to clear energy, to be able to transmute whatever needs to be transmuted. But what's happening is those entities are also keeping these children awake at night. And again, that's where I get called in, because they're being hassled at night by different entities or earthbound spirits that have been alcoholics before, that are connecting into the energy of those people with that addiction, or they could be people that have passed from P and then they're also connecting in. So there's also those types of energies, as well as there's, like with P, it's a very demonic drug, so there's a lot of demonics that'll come in around that energy, and more of them with the people that come in also. It's huge, like actual. And so these children are trying to clear those energies and their parents and the people that are coming in. And what's happening is they're getting so disturbed in their sleep time or through their sleep time that they also aren't getting a lot of sleep. And what's happening is there's a lot of them that are going to school and falling asleep at their desks, or just not actually really being able to learn, because their minds are so tired, that their bodies are exhausted. And so again, you as guardian protectors, as grandparents of these children, your family may be quite clear of all of that, but your child's going to school with kids that are in that state, and they're also maybe having these entities and energies coming into the school. And I know when I went up to Kaikoai and I was working with a group of women up there, I was doing readings actually, and it all came through the reading with this one woman, and I said to her, my God, I said, it's like you've got this pack of these of energy at this place. I said, where do you work? She said, I'm principal of a school. And I went, oh my God, that's where it is. It's at the school. And what it was doing was affecting the children also, and they were packing like instead of one child being told to get up, you're disturbing the class, you now go and see the principal, 5 others would stand up. And I was saying all this to her, and I said to her, it's like that, they're like a pack. She said, that's exactly what's happening. And what I came to see in that was that when I'd seen P energy before, it identified itself as a very ugly type of demonic thing, right? And then in this time, when I was looking at it, it had shifted shape, because it was being so easily identified that it needed to shape shift itself into something else, because we were identifying it. And so then it shifted itself into like a Pac-Man that was like that. And when I recognized that, I was like, hang on a minute, this has changed shape, and it's shape shifted itself into something else. And so in the Pac-Man mentality and the way that it was shaping itself into that, what I had also recognized, it was like aha moment, because what I'd also recognized was that P addicts were actually looking quite healthy. With the demonic ugly, It was that they were becoming very gaunt, you know, like old heroin used to take people down into those places where they were very gaunt, weathered, lost a lot of weight, very thin, you know, all of that, and looked very ugly in a sense of their whole being. Then it shifted into this Pac-Man, and I'd been noticing P users that were starting to look really different, like healthier, you know, all of that. And I'd started asking families of P people that I know, have you noticed a change in your people? And are you seeing that they're actually eating more and they're looking healthier? And they all sort of, for a moment, and went, oh my God, yes. So in this change, this Pac-Man, it started shifting the way that it was being seen so that they could slip into society in a much easier way and still be in society, rather, in a much easier way, and we weren't able to identify them as clearly as we could before because they looked so baked and they were really gaunt and weathered and, you know, picking, and they had sores and all of those things. Now they're not doing all that. This whole energy of P has shifted itself. So going into the school, I said to her, I need to go into your school and clear this energy of this whole situation really out of your school. And they were more than willing and welcoming for me to do that. So this is what I'm meaning. We need to help these children in that type of environment. If you know your family are doing this stuff, then energetically you can go in and help these children clear the stuff away. You're more than capable of doing that as grandparents, as energy beings, as you are, who you are, and just help these children out because they are exhausted. And I know there's a lot of them that aren't learning at school, you know, they just can't cope with it all, and it's getting a bit much for some. So, and many, I would say. So just be aware of that, and like I say, really help these children, assist them. And also, you know, like if you think about also being in hospitals, if you're visiting people in hospitals, if you're going into those types of energy spaces as well, there's a lot of these energies in those types of places as well. Make sure you're clearing yourself, clearing the area that your children may be in, or people, whoever, you know, whatever. Because again too, illness can have an astral entity attached to it. So when we have an illness, what can happen is, well, because we travel at night, we come out of in our rest space, we come out of our body and we're traveling, we can quite often come back in with astral entities attached to us. And that again is something that you would want to just make sure you're clearing yourself. And I know that the higher body frequencies that we are carrying now, less and less of that is happening with us. But if you're working with people and you're a practitioner of any sort and you're, you know, a healer and things like that, holding space for people, these are the things to consider. And so in hospitals, you may have somebody who's going through illness and disease and has been quite ill. Sometimes the illness, and I know this through all the years I've been doing energy work with people and bodies on tables and all of that, I've learnt a lot. And what I've discovered is these astral entities that connect to the disease. So if we've got cancer tumours, there may be astral entities that are attached to some of those, and they can sit in the body or in the field of the bodies and actually create an immunity disturbance, which then creates brings cancer on, or brings some illness and disease on. It can be a part of, it's not always, but it can be a part of. And sometimes it's not until you clear those astral entities around that disease and illness that those things clear up. So something else to just consider, but making sure that you're clearing your space a lot if you're in those sorts of places, if you're going into hospitals, if you're going into doctor's surgeries and places like that, it's not just about a virus might be sitting around there, you know, or any of that sort of thing. It's definitely energetic as well. So so yeah, just make sure that's happening. What else was there that I might have missed? Anything? But these children do need help, like they really do. They need us to assist them in respect to that, in those types of situations that they may be in, and how it will talk to you. Those types of energies will definitely try to make you feel bad about yourself. They'll work on your weak points, and that's why with addictions, that's where they'll come in. Like if you've got an addiction that's running you, ruling your life, ruling your body, then that's the sort of space that they will come in. You're in a vulnerable space, so they will attach to that. And I had a young boy who was absolutely raging out, like actually, and for a little kid, like he was only about 5. I think he was 5, 6. No, he was around 5, and his little sister was around 3, and he was being absolutely horrible, like raging and actually bashing this little girl, his little sister. He'd never been like this. His mother gave him time out, put him in his room, and he actually smashed holes in his door by punching it. Like, that's strong for a little kid. And his mother said that there was another voice coming through him, right? So that's what sort of, because she was thinking, gosh, this is what's going on, this is not him, and how the hell can he smash a door like that with his fist, sort of just a little fist. And anyway, and then she heard him yelling from the other side of the door, and she said it was another voice coming through him. So of course his grandmother knew me, and she contacted, and I went straight over. This was in Dargaville, and holy moly, walked in that place, felt that thing straight away, and it was actually an alcoholic man who was earthbound, who had a demonics attached to him from his addictions that were playing through this kid. So that's the sort of thing that can happen. And because what we get to is when there's light waves coming through and this energy shifting on the planet, and things are, shaking things up, we get a lot more of this sort of thing happening, because these entities are not comfortable in that high frequency either. So they get a bit antsy, and they want to definitely find who they can connect with and attach to and play their stuff out with. They're looking for someone to come play in their playground. So so it's why in many ways it's really important to make sure that you're clean and clear, and that you're raising your frequency so you can assist all these people that are needing it, and particularly, like I say, the children. So that's what I know, and I thought it was time to share that, particularly around the war zone stuff with the kids, because I feel there are a lot of children out there, and we're in New Zealand, and anywhere on the planet that may be going through and experiencing this with their children, these nightmares, these terrors, and if anyone knows anyone that's going through that sort of thing, I'm always available to assist in whatever way I can. And I know that it's brought, like I say, clarity, yes, but also a sense of relief, and knowing that their child is actually okay as well, and that if this body, the other body, passes, that they're not also going to be passing. That's not how it's been working. So yeah, anyway, I think that was all I really had to share on it all. And yeah, it's there's a lot of that, Nick, going on, a lot of souls that are earthbound still, and I know when I connect into somebody who's passed over, I can often tell whether they've actually moved through, they go into a healing realm when they do pass, and they're in that healing realm for however long they need to be. But they also have, their character body and the being and the character that they were here on the planet before and played out in that time. They're also still connected very much to that character as a sense, right? And they'll bring through that character for me to identify with the person, for them to be able to identify as well, and we can connect as to who it is. But oftentimes what has often happened, and very quickly now, more so quicker now, is they go through and we're connecting with their higher body, their higher being, their true being. And so that there is where I like to really connect from. If it's messages coming in from, say, Uncle Harry, and he's still very much in his, alcohol addicted sort of character, he's going to give information that's very much based in his human existence, and it's not going to probably be very effective in the sense of the messaging or the information that might come in. And it can quite often be telling you what to do and, that type of thing. Whereas when we come in from the higher state, it's not like that. It's guided, great, information and an acceptance of where that body is, that person that we might be communicating with on the planet still. And an acceptance of where that person is in that space and their life and their journey. So there's a very big difference. But anyway, I'll leave you all with that, and I will put this up on my YouTube channel so you can share it with anyone else on the children part of it, because I think it's important now that people get the idea around all of that and understand it, because it can be quite concerning in many ways. But as I said, you grandparents, you are the guardian protectors of these children in this life, and in this life particularly, because as we know, the children, there's been a lot that have been targeted in this realm this time. Not that it's never been ever not like that, but it's sort of, ramped up definitely. We can see that for sure. So much love to you all, and if you've only just come in on the tail end of this, it'll be up on my page, so go in and check it out. And like I say, if anybody's in need, just yell out. Honestly, I love helping these children and their parents for sure. So much love, everyone. Have a beautiful, blessed day, and we'll catch you on the roundabout. See ya.